Hello, Conrad and Lucy and Caleb. It's time for another Fantastic Four adventure. And this time they're facing the return of one of their great arch villains. It's Doctor Doom. Wow, has there ever been such a great name for a villain? Doctor Doom. Wow. So here's a picture of the front cover. Looky there, it's the artist's idea of what it would look like to have a giant Doctor Doom fighting against the Invisible Girl and Mr. Fantastic and the Thing and the Human Torch. All right, Doctor Doom really isn't a giant, but nonetheless, he's going to have a foe of gigantic proportions, and this is going to be a great adventure for us to read together. Before we get into the story itself, here are 4 photos of the Fantastic Four in action. Look, here's a pinup of the Human Torch, and he's flying around in his flames. He says, "Take it from old hothead, you fans are the coolest, Johnny O." Oh, and here's the lovely Sue Storm. She says loads of love to all of our fabulous fans. Sue. All right, so very lovely. Ha. And then here's a picture of the Thing, and he's got a package that says from your admirers on Yancey Street. He doesn't have any admirers on Yancey Street, just a bunch of pranksters. And so he's got a mine detector to be sure there's not a bomb in there or something. So the Thing says, yours till clobbering time, big-hearted Benjamin J. Grimm. Oh, and here's Ben's girlfriend, Alicia. She says, my sincerest affection to you all. And look, she's working on a statue of the Thing's head. And finally, here's Mr. Fantastic with one of his gizmos. He says, just between us, I don't know what this silly contraption is either. Keep smiling, read. All right, well, we'll keep smiling, we'll keep chuckling, but most of all, we'll keep reading. Reading Fantastic Four stories. This story is called The Final Victory of Doctor Doom. What? Do you think Doctor Doom is going to win? Is he going to defeat the Fantastic Four? Well, we'll have to read the story and see. The editors promise all new thrills. So, it starts off riding over the city in their world-famous Fantasticar. The FF are shocked to see the almost impossible happen. Motor trouble. Man, you don't want to have motor trouble when you're flying through the air. Reed says, Ben, you forgot to rebore the jet exhausts. They're jamming up. Sue says, Reed, we're going to crash. Johnny is hanging on for dear life. He says, I can flame on and save myself. But what about you three? Ben says, clam up. You're all rocking the boat. I'll land this tub somehow. All right, the editor has a comment here in the corner. He says, if you think the FF are in trouble now, wait till you see what happens when they meet up with, well, how did you ever guess? Well, of course, we've already known for a long time that they're going to be meeting up with Doctor Doom, which means I guess they're going to be able to get out of this motor trouble pretty easily. All right, well, let's look and see what happens. All right, so Mr. Fantastic says, quick, Johnny, it's up to us to clear a path so that Ben can land. And so Mr. Fantastic stretches out to warn people to get off the road. Thing says, move it, you blasted road hogs. The torch says, emergency landing coming up. Pull over, pull over. And this driver says, I knew I should have taken the train. Yes, you can ask your mama about traveling into downtown. A lot of times it's easier to take public transportation. Oh, so Reed says, all clear, Ben, except for that one old flivver. Ben, look out. And so when he lands on the street, he knocks into this really old car. And a really old man says, phooey. Yeah, the old man says, ah, phooey, look what you did to my fender. The Ben says, be thankful, pal. A lesser man might have squashed your whole blame car. I am not thankful. I came to New York to see the fair, not to have my fender smashed by a bunch of freaks. Ben says, look, pal, it was an emergency. We don't get our kicks going around smashing fenders. We're more the head clobbering type. And then Ben says, now give me that blasted hunk of tin and I'll fix it before you make a federal case out of it. Uh-oh. When he tries to fix it, he knocks off the whole tire. He says, nuts, they just don't build them the way they do now. And the old man says, look out, not so hard. And Torch says, Ben, take it easy. It's an old car. Gulp. The old man just gets madder and madder. He says, you big clumsy nut, you shouldn't be allowed to walk around loose. I'll sue you. I'll call the police and swear out a complaint. Ben says, boy, you tried to do a guy a favor and then bluey. But look, here comes a man from behind. He says, hold it, hold it. I'm an art dealer, sir. Will you accept $1,000 for your car? Ben says, 1,000, even if you mean pennies. That old heap ain't worth it. And the old man says, well, if you're really serious, I was thinking of selling it anyway. $1,000 was worth a lot more back then than it is now. But the art dealer says, there, my good man, now that it's my car, go ahead and hit it. Do a good job. Thing says, what is this? National Crackpots Week? The man says, I assure you I am quite sane. Now, if you'll kindly wreck my car. In fact, I'll pay you an extra 100 to really smash it. But hurry, I'm a busy man. Thing says, yeah, I'll bet you are. It's a full-time job, dodging those guys with the butterfly nets and white jackets. He's talking about people from a crazy hospital. He says, okay, stand back. It's your dough. And look, the thing attacks that car. He smashes it and wraps it all up. He says, just to satisfy my curiosity, what are you going to do with this pile of nuts and bolts after I wreck it? The man says, I'll sell it for a fortune. It will be a new type of pop art, an original clobber creation by the famous Thing. That'll do. Now, thanks. It's perfect. So here we have a metal statue, compliments of the Thing. And then he says, now let's get out of here before some other nut grabs me. Reed says, you're just in time, Ben. I've got her all fixed now. Thing says, if old bashful Benjamin's going to be the pilot again, I'll fly back to HQ under my own power. It's safer. Sue says, I hope we have no more delays. I have an appointment at the hairdresser in half an hour. But, the editor says, perhaps our fabulous foursome would not be so anxious to return to their headquarters if they knew what fate has in store for them. And now we go to outer space. Outer space was the last place that we saw the evil Dr. Doom. He was hurtling out into space towards an unknown destination after his defeat by the FF. But no one on Earth suspected what happened next. Look, he's in outer space, and he's thinking, only enough oxygen within my iron mask inner pod to last for another 2 or 3 minutes. But look, a space vehicle sees him, and someone inside thinks, strange, that seems to be a human form falling towards Jupiter. So he's way out in outer space. Suddenly, A powerful attractor ray shoots out from the mysterious hovering satellite and draws uh, Dr. Doom towards the spacecraft. Doom thinks something is drawing me back. And now he says, I'm being held against a flat metal object. That means some form of living intelligence is at work. No matter who or what it is, it's drawing me into the ship. And as surely as men know me as Dr. Doom, I shall be the master of whomever I'm about to confront. I shall find a way to make him serve me. So instead of being grateful for being saved, Dr. Doom is already planning on conquest. Then, after the arch-villain is safely inside the air-filled floating satellite, he hears a voice. Well, I never expected to find another castaway here in outer space. Well, where is Dr. Doom, and who is this person? Look, do you remember him? That was a long time ago. We talked about Rama Tut. He was a villain that the Fantastic Four faced in Egypt in the distant past. Do you remember? He's a time traveler himself. All right. And so he is in the same time frame as Dr. Doom now, and he says, I like not the look of you. Make no rash move until you have explained your identity and how you came to be drifting through the void. And look, Rama Tut has a strange gun pointed right at Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom says, I shall explain. Put away your weapon. It could not affect me anyway. And so he relives the story that we remember. He says, my actual name is of no importance. What is important that men have for years called me Dr. Doom. Of all those who walk the earth, I have possibly the most brilliant scientific brain, save for one, Reed Richards, leader of the accursed Fantastic Four. When last we battled, I had almost destroyed all four of them. Thanks to my cunning plan, they were about to be plunged into endless space in seconds. Do you remember that, when they were trapped in a room and the cosmic rays were about to destroy their building and take them into space? But due to sheer carelessness on my part, I was seized at the last instant. And so the thing grabbed him and pulled him into the room. And with only enough oxygen in my iron mask to last for brief minutes, I seemed fated to perish until you brought me here. So it wasn't the Fantastic Four that were destroyed by Dr. Doom's plan, but he was tossed into outer space himself until this moment. For that reason, I shall spare your own life, at least until I have learned more about you. Rama Tut says, it cannot possibly be blind chance that we have met. It must be part of some grand design, some master plan of fate. For I too have good reason to hate the Fantastic Four. I too have been defeated by them. But the most incredible coincidence of all is, I come from the future, from the 25th century, where I was a master criminal. I have committed crimes in many centuries, using the time machine which I stole, which was supposed to have been invented by my ancestor, Dr. Doom. That's a surprise. Rama Tut and Dr. Doom somehow are related. Rama Tut continues, when the Fantastic Four defeated me, I was living 1,000 years in the past, known as Pharaoh Rama Tut. It was they who made me flee, and I have been drifting here in space, wondering how to strike at them next. Dr. Doom says, wait, it was I who built the time travel machine. What if I am not your ancestor? What if I myself went to the future? What if you are me? What if Rama Tut and Dr. Doom are the same man? My mind can't wrap around that. I'm getting a headache just trying to think about it. But I guess it's possible with time travel. And so here they are, looking at each other face to face. Possibly the same person from different times. Rama Tut says, "You mean you yourself might have traveled to the 25th century, taken my name, and you might actually be me?" Dr. Doom says, "Or perhaps during one of your trips to the past, you became the gypsy who became Dr. Doom. We could be the same man living in two different ages." And then they say at the same time, "But if we're both the same man, how can we coexist at the same moment in eternity?" How indeed! Time is one of the great mysteries in life. Even the great 20th century scientist Einstein, I believe his name was, could not completely solve the enigma, although he came close with his theory of relativity. But we have a more pressing problem now. Working together, we must defeat the Fantastic Four, and we shall do it. Dr. Doom says, "No, we dare not attack them together. If we are one and the same man, and if either of us is slain, then the other two will perish. For you cannot live in the future if you are slain in the past, and I cannot live in the present if my other self dies at the same moment in eternity." I'm getting confused. And Rama Tut says, "You are right, we cannot take the risk. Therefore I shall bring you back to Earth, where I shall return to the future, so that I shall still live to carry on your fight, even though you may be destroyed." Dr. Doom says, "Observing the scientific marvels you possess in this ship, I can almost believe that you are really me. What other human brain could be so brilliant?" Rama Tut says, "It has been said that Reed Richards is the superior of both of us." Dr. Doom says, "Bah! I intend to put an end to that lie once and for all. This time I shall beat him so conclusively that the world will know that I am the master." And so our stage is set, our characters are assembled, the play has begun, and one of the most mind-staggering contests of all time is about to be fought as the space capsule containing the diabolical Dr. Doom hurtles toward Earth, while Rama Tut, the fearsome menace from the future, returns to the 25th century. Dr. Doom says, "This time victory shall be mine. I feel it in every fiber of my being." And the editor says, "Though we don't want to divulge the ending yet, we can say that in a certain special way, Dr. Doom is right." How will victory belong to Dr. Doom? Well, we'll just have to see how the story goes. And look, there at the Baxter Building, Sue Storm and Reed Richards are looking out their window. Sometime later, gazing wistfully out of FF headquarters, Sue Storm points out a dramatic sight to the tall, handsome, commanding figure beside her. She says, "Reed, make a wish. That's a shooting star." Reed says, "That's odd. Judging by its speed and trajectory, I'd almost guess it's a man-made capsule instead." And speaking of capsules, you'll have to excuse me, Sue. I've got some work to finish off. Wow. No romance in Mr. Fantastic, and that's what Sue's thinking. She says, "Humph. He's been so preoccupied lately that as far as he's concerned, I might as well be the invisible girl all the time." Yeah, when a pretty girl points out a shooting star, a fella needs to take time to look at it. But he says, "Ever since Dr. Doom disappeared into space, I've had a premonition that he'll return more dangerous than ever." And, of course, he's right about that. And as though to lend emphasis to the words of Mr. Fantastic, an iron-masked figure parachutes safely to Earth. Over here, see? As his capsule plunges to a swift, watery end outside of New York Harbor. Then a short time later, the awesome figure of Dr. Doom again appears in the teeming metropolis to menace mankind. And as he takes off his parachute, he says, "This time there shall be no slip-up, no mistake." This time my plan shall be worked out to the most minute detail. It shall be so devilishly cunning that the Fantastic Four shall be trapped before they even suspect that I have returned. Then, with the supreme confidence of a master egotist, the most diabolical villain of all time strides through the streets of New York, knowing that his very visage is enough to make ordinary man stand aside in mute shock. He thinks never will this mass of teeming humanity ever forget that Dr. Doom once walked among them. Well, I'd probably remember that too. This big, imposing, armor-clad fellow with a green cape and hood. Meanwhile, at the Latverian embassy building in the shadow of the UN, the ambassador of that little-known nation is granting a news interview. A reporter asks, "We know that your nation has a prime minister, sir, but it's rumored that he isn't the real ruler." The ambassador says, "Nonsense, gentlemen. Surely you don't believe such foolish rumors." "What were you expecting me to admit? The presence of some mysterious, masked, unknown tyrant who chooses to remain hidden from the world? This is not a storybook kingdom, gentlemen. Excuse me, the interview is over." He doesn't say, but we know it's because there really is some mysterious, masked, unknown tyrant who is running Latveria, and his name is Dr. Doom. Seconds later, after summarily dismissing the gentleman of the press, the ambassador comes in. "Excellency, I didn't know. I never dreamed you were here." Dr. Doom says, "Silence, you sniveling fool. Come in and shut the door. I have orders for you. The instructions I give you must be carried out to the letter. Do you understand? If there should be one small slip-up—" "Oh no, Excellency, on my life." "Exactly, Gorzinko. The slightest mistake will cost your life." He's threatening him. So for the next 15 minutes, in crisp, clipped, menacing tones, the master schemer divulges his plans to his quivering underling, and then he says, "Now repeat it to me. Be sure you are letter perfect." And as soon as the ambassador has finished reciting his instructions, Doom says, "Now go about your duties, Gorzinko, and remember, the eyes of Dr. Doom will be upon you." Wow. When next the Fantastic Four and I shall meet, it will be at a party, but a party such as they have never attended before, nor ever will again. Now, as the web of fate draws ever closer, let us again join our colorful quartet. All right, so Reed is sitting at his desk with gizmos all around him. He says, "Ben, are you ready to test the new adhesive to be used on NASA capsules?" Ben says, "Sure, I'm always ready. But tell me something, Big Dome. How come no matter how many nutty scientific machines you use, I'm always the one who ends up doing the heavy work?" The Torch says, "Because you're the only one with all the strength, mostly between the ears." That's an insult. Thing says, "Very funny, Junior. Ever try joking through a fat lip?" Reed says, "Save the horseplay for later, guys. I want to see how strong that adhesive is." Ben, "Now, try pulling the two blocks apart. Now." Nuts, you'd think a living doll like me would get more glamorous jobs than this to do. Ugh. And look, he pulls with all his strength. See, these two metal pieces are bound together by some kind of adhesive. Finally, he pulls it apart. Reed says, "Thanks, big fella. The adhesive passed its test. It took you almost 3 seconds to pry it apart. That means it's strong enough to hold a nose cone on a missile against the pull and stress of blastoff." Thing says, "Well, what do you know? Ain't that just ginger peachy?" And then Reed says, I guess that wraps it up for today. We've all been working pretty hard. Thing says, are you kidding? I almost bust my tender little biceps while you make like a poor man's Vincent Price. Reed says, all right, big fella, if it's a pat on the back you want, consider yourself patted. I'd rather consider myself paid, like with some real folding green. All right, some money. And then here comes Sue. Boys, big news. We just got an important invitation. Reed says, an invitation? Thing says, if it's to a Yancey Street block party, count me out. Sue says, oh, it's nothing like that, Ben. Reed reads the invitation. We're invited to an official embassy reception to be given tonight by the Latvian ambassador. We've been awarded a scientific fellowship. Well, that sounds important. And the torch flames on and flies around. Yay, we're finally starting to get up in the world. After this, I may run for politics. Ben says, you'll be running for the hills if you don't get that flame out of my face, you high-flying hothead. Sue says, oh, Reed, it sounds so very exciting. I've got the most daring new evening gown that I've been simply dying to wear. Reed says, I'm afraid this won't be your chance, honey. The invitation said we should wear our FF costumes, probably at the request of the press photographers. Well, phooey! Sue doesn't get to dress up all fancy. It's like getting a whole box full of new clothes and not being able to wear them. You wouldn't like that, would you, Lucy? I didn't think so. But look, here they are at this beautiful palace. You see the chandelier and all the artwork, and here's a long table with fancy guests. And so the world's most famous team of adventurers attends the most gala embassy party of the year that night, little suspecting the true identity of the man who actually issued the invitation. The thing says, you know, this ain't a bad place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live here. Johnny says, I'll bet you this room is almost as big as the whole nation of Latveria. Sue says, Reed, I'm rusty on my current events. Who is the actual ruler of Latveria? Reed says, they say it's the Prime Minister, Sue, but strangely enough, no one seems to be sure. Well, we're sure who is the ruler of Latveria, and it's nobody peaceful. After the ceremonies, at dinner, the ambassador says, you must all try our native juice drink made from special berries grown only in Latveria. And so as the waiter pours, he says, say when, sir? Ben says, just keep pouring, Mac. I'm a big boy now. Johnny says, hey, save some for the rest of us, Ben. It must be good, Johnny. Look how voraciously Ben is gulping it down. Don't kid yourself, sis. That big lug will drink anything. So he's drinking down the berry juice. Johnny takes a sip and he says, it is pretty good. Sort of like a king-sized Hawaiian punch. And then he takes a sniff. I wonder what that funny odor is, though. Oh, I must have just imagined it. Reed says, Sue, honey, I have a strange feeling about all this. Perhaps you'd better not drink that juice. Sue says, too late, Reed. I just did. Why? Forget it then. I'm probably just over-suspicious. But the ambassador says to the waiter, tell the master that all goes according to plan. But as the evening progresses, it grows increasingly difficult to harbor any suspicions as the mood grows more and more festive. And then the MC says, and now, ladies and gentlemen and honored guest, we shall have a period of dancing. And the band leader says, our first selection is dedicated to the lovely Miss Susan Storm. Okay, look over here. There's a saxophone. Did y'all know that Papa used to play the saxophone? But not for a long time. All right, here the ambassador is walking up the stairs. He says, "So far, so good. Now I shall report to the master as instructed. But it is strange that he should be here in person, he who has never before publicly attended any official function." The ambassador enters the room and bows low. Excellency, forgive this intrusion. Be advised that all goes well downstairs." Doom says, "And so it should, under pain of my extreme displeasure. Have all the Fantastic Four partaken of my specially prepared berry drink?" Well, Johnny was right, and Mr. Fantastic, that there was something strange about that berry drink. But the ambassador says, "All save the one known as Mr. Fantastic, Excellency. I do not see him drink, but if you wish." Dr. Doom says, "No matter. As long as the others did, my plan will still go forward. Return to the guests now. Dismissed." Okay. And so now we're dismissed as well while we finish the first half of this story. But we'll come back to the second half when we find out what was in that berry drink. What's going to happen to the Fantastic Four? What's Dr. Doom's plan? And is he really going to have a victory over the FF? Well, I hope not. But let's see what happens when we come back to read about the Fantastic Four versus the Dr. Doom. All right, y'all. Love you very much. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.